Greetings, Earth family. Welcome to Ascension Stories. Welcome to Ellie from the Speed Bumps podcast. I got that finally.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Yes, thank you so much for being here. I just love your story and I love your vibe and really just I think we connect very well and I can't wait to have you talk about your story in a couple of seconds. But first let's like intro you the proper way. Like what do you do, where you come from, etc. Whatever flows.
So, I'm from Michigan. I live in Connecticut and started off in pharma, left pharma, and now I do energy healing. I'm really big into essential oils and creating these custom blends for people because everyone is so different. So, just because one thing works for one person doesn't mean it'll work for another. And I do big crystal healing and all types of energy work. Um, And yeah, I just holistic life coaching, just trying to help people be their best selves and know that they can heal themselves with nature. Not that Western medicine never has a place, it absolutely does, but try the natural route first.
Agreed. Agreed. I agree with that 100%. I do believe that Western medicine, like you said, does have a place, like because I mean surgery is sometimes
Right,
necessary. Certain things are necessary. Like I'm not
right,
gonna go into all of it, but just like there's certain things just like very, very necessary. But I do believe in preventative care. I do believe that, work with the subtle layers first, unless it's a serious issue that's,
yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and thank you. I really am grateful for all of you guys that do the, healing of the earth thing, whether it's through people or, however we do it. Thank you for, waking up and doing this stuff. So okay, so I guess let's go into your essential story, just like your background, where you come from when it comes to how you got to where you are and the stuff that you know, just whatever pops up.
So my name on Instagram is One Thumb L because I only have one thumb. And so I had a lot of surgeries as a kid. I had open heart surgery as an infant, uh, died then. Uh, but growing up with that many surgeries, I was very Western medicine is good, science is good. That's what kept me alive. And so it made a lot of sense that I was very drawn towards that. And I went into that field. I got a bachelor's and a master's in scientific disciplines and worked for pharma for almost 7 years. For a portion of that, worked on Jabberwockies. I don't know if I can say the actual V words. We're going to call them Jabberwockies, and potential super harmful things like anthrax. Like that's what I did. And I thought that I was saving the world. And like a lot of people, 2020 happened and things weren't adding up for me. And my world got
People
shattered.
woke up at that time
A
and still
lot of people woke
realize
up.
what was going on. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people woke up and raised Catholic, thought crystals and oils were woo woo BS. Science was always right. The FDA was always right. CDC was always right. Uh, and I ended up getting a really bad case of bronchitis or something at the end of 2019 on a bunch of inhalers. No one could figure out what it was, but they were very, very concerned. And nothing that the doctors were doing was helping. And finally, my now husband was like, "Can we just try some essential oils in a diffuser?" And I was like, "Sure." Like, I'm desperate. And also, just before I'd gotten sick, he had said, I was going through a hard time, I was going through a divorce. And he goes, "I want you to go get a Reiki." And I was like, "I don't know what a Reiki is." He's like, "You don't need to." I was like, "Well, I don't believe in that. Like, I don't need to go." He's like, "You don't have to believe in it." He's like, "I'm gonna pay for it." He's like, "The worst that's gonna happen is you're gonna lay on a table for a half hour to an hour and just relax, and that's it." He goes, "That's the worst that could happen." I was like, "All right." And what was strange is typically anything new, I research it like crazy. I look it up, I have to understand it, even if it's just a new restaurant. I never Googled what Reiki was. And that was odd for me, very out of character. Went and she also did tarot at the end and blew my mind. I felt lighter. She knew things that she couldn't have possibly known. And I came back and I was like, "You told her things." He's like, "I didn't." And I realized some of the things that she knew, I hadn't told him yet. So, and they weren't public anywhere. So I was blown away. So there was Reiki, and then there was the essential oils and crystals. And I realized everything I thought I knew was totally wrong. Uh, Complete 180, earth shattered, uh, mind just blown open. And it was hard, to be honest with you. Like, I have over $200,000 in student loan debt doing something that I thought was going to save humanity. And I was actually hurting people. And that was a really tough pill to swallow. But I couldn't keep hurting people. So I went into science to help people. And I ultimately left conventional science, Western science, whatever you want to call it, pharma, to help people because I realized I was hurting them. And so now like I said, I teach people about essential oils. I do crystal healing. I'm technically a Reiki master and teacher. Uh, I'm IET level 1 certified. Like, I have all these certifications, but you can list them, but sometimes what you know intuitively is more important. Those certifications absolutely helped me and gave me knowledge, but there's something that I can do that I can't really articulate that no piece of paper could ever explain to someone, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's for me, how I would describe it is like, for me anyway, a connection to the cosmos.
Mhm.
I didn't even finish that sentence. You're like, yep, that's it.
Yeah, and it's just like, I call them beacons on people. So if someone has, like, physical pain, I can, like, almost like a little pinpoint light, I guess, but it's not light like a light bulb. But I just call them beacons, and I can, like, see where you physically or spiritually hurt, and I can turn it on and off. So I don't wanna see the beacons on all the strangers, like, that's not my thing. But, like, when my husband I can be like, "Oh, your hip's kinda hurting right now," and, I can massage his hip or his knee or, like, whatever it is, and I just know.
Wow. I did not know this about you, actually.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. I
I
love.
call them. I don't know why I call them beacons, but I do. I call them beacons.
Yeah, it works for you. Interesting.
Mm.
Um, what would that be called? Energetic intuitive?
Yeah, I mean, I guess, and this is where I personally have trouble with things because labels can be so limiting.
Yes.
They can explain things, but at the same time, they're typically not the perfect exact word. And so if someone gets stuck on that label, like,
Right.
I do Reiki, but I don't just do Reiki.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I don't know.
You
I
manage, you see and manage energy.
and I can move energy, and I can also, like, see if someone has, like, attachments on them. And there was one that uh do you know, I don't know a ton of Pokemon, but do you know the Pokemon that looks like a duck? Like like the side duck or whatever it is?
I think so. It's been a while.
Okay, it's been a while. Anyway, I was clearing one off of someone and I was like, it
Interesting.
looks exactly like that. And, like, but that's what I could see, like, in my mind's eye was this basically Pokemon looking thing that looked like Psyduck,
Oh,
and
wow.
it was draining their energy.
Wow. Wow. Actually, I think I want to like see. I want to work with you. Like a lot of us are just like intuitive with like knowing, etc. But like you're seeing things, and like I once in a while I'll go to a healer that sees stuff. I don't know. I just like the fact that they see stuff. Um, just I don't know. This I don't know. It just it does it for me. I'm not saying everybody else is invalid, but I just like I like to go like and check out different people's skills and abilities and everything.
Well, yeah, and, like, that's I feel like that's like a massage therapist. There's certain people that, like, really like the deep tissue massage, and then there's the other ones that like just like the little light and fluffy, and neither are wrong, it's just a personal preference.
Yeah, yeah. I love it. I love how everybody's gifts are coming online, etc. I love that. So I'm curious, the essential oils, how did those help?
So I was coughing, it like couldn't sleep, all the position changes, everything else. I was trying NyQuil. They had all these different cough syrups, like prescription grade cough syrups. I tried everything in the book. And so he had put a bunch in there, but the ones off the top of my head that I remember at the time were like peppermint, eucalyptus, clove, and something else. And it eased the coughing. And then I got introduced to the doTERRA brand of oils, and they have this blend called Breathe. And now I can just like put if I don't really have asthma anymore. Occasionally, if I get super worked up, I'll get like that wheeziness.
Hmm.
But instead of using an inhaler, I'll put a couple drops of Breathe in my hand, rub my hands together, make a light fist, and then suck in my fist almost like I'm sucking out of a straw. And it opens up your airways in your lungs, and it's phenomenal, and it's actually been shown to increase oxygen saturation. So when if someone's having an asthma attack, everything is constricting and your oxygen is going down, and it's been shown to actually increase your oxygen saturation, which is really cool.
Hmm. Yeah, I use them. I feel like I don't have enough of a knowledge like to really like, like I don't know. I would like to probably do a little more studying. Like I like to smell them
We should chat.
for
I
sure.
use them all the time.
For sure. I have a bunch, but like a lot of the time it just kind of sits there, you know.
They can be really intimidating because you're like, what do I do with all of this? And but you slowly start to incorporate the ones that are really useful to you. Like for me, I have a bottle of lavender in my kitchen because I bake sourdough and I'm always burning my hand on the oven all the time. So I just take straight lavender and I drop it on the burn, and I've never blistered. Grant you, it's not third-degree burns. It's just like, you quick touch the oven, but you just couple of drops of straight lavender, and I've never scarred, never blistered.
Interesting. Yeah,
Lemon,
lavender is probably the one that I use the most.
yeah. And lemon, great degreaser in the kitchen. If you have those little like hair bands that you put in your hair, like the little tiny stretchy ones,
Yeah.
put a couple drops of lemon or orange, some type of citrus oil. It'll snap the plastic, and there's no fighting in your hair.
Wow.
It's great.
Love it. Love it. Yeah, tell me more about like crystals and homeopathy and frequencies, all the stuff that you support your healing with, and your body, emotional and spiritual bodies.
So I remember, I'll tell you the story of how I first came into crystals. I had known my now husband maybe a few weeks, and we had gone to my friend's wedding. And he was into all the crystals and stuff, and I was like, he wanted to take me to this metaphysical store, and I was like, whatever, like, it's not my thing, but sure, like, let's go look. And
It's usually the
I
other way around. It's usually the woman that's into this stuff, and the guy's just like,
no, he introduced me to all of this, and I'm so, so thankful.
wow,
So, so thankful. Him and I actually became Reiki masters together, and we'll do Reiki on people as a couple. And it's so interesting that because people will be like, I've had Reiki, but they've never had it where two people are working at the same time, and I'm fire and he's electricity, and they can feel
wow.
like their eyes will be closed and they can tell that one person's at their feet and one person's at their head, and they can like sense when our hands are moving and like where we're at.
I love it. I love it. Is he also able to see?
He can see like auras, uh, and he's a natural protector, so not just in the 3D but the 5D. So he's very much like protecting the house spiritually, physically, things like that. Whereas I'm more of the healer. So he can, but that's not his forte. Like everyone has their strengths.
I,
So
yeah, yeah, love it. Okay, let's see. But how about like frequencies and homeopathy? Do you have a
so frequencies used to be my husband's thing. He was really big into sound bowls, but I was never drawn to it. And I came across this device called a Solex, and some people might know like what a Healy is, a Healy device. And
heard?
so the Solex is similar to the Healy, but I personally never like people would give me Heelys to try and things like that, and it never did anything for me personally. This Solex, I ended up I was going actually to an essential oil meeting and I had this gallbladder attack basically. And I probably should have gone to the ER, but I'm stubborn and I'm the type of person when I say I'm going to be somewhere, pretty much unless I'm dying, I'm going to be there. So I somehow dragged my butt to this meeting and I walk in and everyone, there's like 15 people there and they're like, why are you here? You look awful. Like that's how bad it was. And this woman goes, I don't typically bring this with me. She's like, but I have this thing called a Solex. It's frequency healing. I can basically create a playlist for to target certain things for you. Uh, can I try this on you? And this was just last year. And I was like, sure. Like, I didn't know what to expect. I had zero expectations. And so I'm sitting in this chair, like reclined back. And after a few minutes, I start giggling. So I because of all my surgeries, they've had to give me narcotics for things, and I know how I act and what I feel like when I have that narcotic high. And so I start giggling and I have that feeling like I have this narcotic high. I had not touched oils, hadn't had crystals. I was simply sitting in the chair, and the only thing different was this device. And then I would stop. And then a few minutes later, I would start giggling again. It was like these little short bursts. And I realized because a lot of the frequencies, they're only on for usually 5 to 30 seconds. And then it would go to a different one. So she had one for like health and gallbladder and pain free and uh, immune system and like a few other things. So I was only giggling at these little certain intervals, but I didn't know because I wasn't looking at the phone. And finally, I got curious and I'm like, all right, like, what am I like? Why is this happening? And everyone in the room was like, are you all right? And I was like, I'm great. And I'm talking like I'm high. And then I would talk normal. And so I was like, I have to investigate this more. And ordered one. It actually came in the mail the day that I had a tooth pulled. And I was like, all right, true test. We're going to use this to see if it can control my pain again. I never got the giggles again, but it definitely helped ease the pain of having a pulled tooth. And it was a back molar. So it was a painful uh, tooth that was pulled. And I was doing experiments where I would be like, all right, I'll turn this on. And I would sit next to it and everything would kind of calm down. And then it'd be like, all right, what happens if I turn this off? So I turn it off and I'd go do something and my mouth would flare up. And I did this probably a dozen times because I wasn't quite convinced yet that that thing was actually doing something. And it was. And so now we use it all the time.
I I love that. Yes. Yeah, I've never went the Healy route, but um maybe I should try something. And I like the one that you were mentioning. It sounds even better.
I personally like it. Like I said, I know people who love the Healy. I'm not talking bad about the Healy. I think everyone is different,
Everybody.
and just like, some people hate the smell of lavender and some people love the smell of lavender. That doesn't mean lavender is bad.
Right. Absolutely. How about do you have any experience with homeopathy?
So the best way that I've learned homeopathy is through basically trial by fire. And so there's a main company called Boiron. It's like Boiron. And they're it's like these little bottles that are blue and there's like a white wrapper and they have all the different types of homeopathics and they also sell combination ones. So the one that I swear by, especially because flu season's coming up, it's like Oxicillium, OSicill. Like start typing it into Amazon, you'll find it. And you think you're getting the flu, you take those. I swear by it. I
Mm,
swear by it. But they also have Boiron has this thing. If you type in medicine finder into your Google store, Apple store, or Play Store, like whatever you have on your phone,
yeah.
it's a free app. And you can click find medicines and then it'll bring up this list where you can it's like almost like a tree kind of where you just click, what's going on. So uh maybe you have digestion issues, so you click digestion, and then you're nauseous, so you click nausea, and then it'll give you these different options.
Hmm.
And so I don't know them all by heart, but I love that that resource is there. And then I know Boiron has lactose in their pellets, and there's certain people that can't have lactose or they're vegan. So there are companies, I can't think of the name off the top of my head, um, that have lactose-free pellets. But what I love is it doesn't matter if they're the Boiron brand or this other brand, it still is the same herb basically in there. And homeopathy is safe for babies, to the elderly, for pets. They don't have interactions. I love them.
Love it. Love it. Yeah, that's something I also haven't put enough time into. Like I just, I know of it, but I think that's a wonderful way to go. You know what I actually do dabble in quite often. So I used to go to an acupuncturist, and
Mhm.
now I started doing stuff on my own, like just the acupressure. So like when it comes to getting rid of a cold that you feel like might be coming on, there's several points that I'll do. Like just like I'll just hold it or I'll massage it. But if you like go into the search engine and look up immune system boosting acupressure points
Yep.
or along those lines. So the two that are really good work really well together is I forget what they are, but there's one like somewhere over here. Like when
Okay.
you type it in, you'll see what I'm talking about once it pops up. I forget which one. Like it's either here or here. I think you could do either one.
So
It's
like
like
on your like up your forearm a little bit on the side of
yeah.
your thumb. Okay.
Let me see. I think. Oh, you know what? A good way to find it if you do this, wherever this finger winds up. So it'll be like you could do it in here or in here,
Okay.
different traditions,
Yep.
and just feel for that spot where it's like it's kind of tender.
Yep.
Yeah, like you'll see. So it'll be I don't know. Let me see.
I'm laughing because I literally can't do that.
As I was doing that, I was like, all right, let's just keep going.
Yeah, no, no, no.
Uh, but and then over here also there's a spot over here. So
Yeah,
like if
that
you combine the one that's above your wrist and then the one that's over here, I'm sure you've seen plenty of people do
yeah.
that. So yeah, whatever the direction is, it's like from 1 or 3 minutes, whatever I guess you feel like doing or whatever. But it really does kind of like push out whatever is in your body trying to cause havoc. Like it's really good preventative measure. Let's see. Okay, so I want to hear about more about your, if you don't mind talking about it, more about
Yeah.
your surgeries, how got like what happened, and there's like near death
Yeah, yeah.
experiences and etc. I would like to hear a little about that.
So, uh, when I was born, uh, I came out blue because or cyanotic because my heart wasn't working properly. And they very quickly found out I had this thing called Tertologia Fallot, 5 holes in my heart and a tight mitral valve. And so basically, I had 10 different things wrong with my heart. And at 7 months old, I had open heart surgery. And in order to have open heart surgery, they have to stop your heart. You're clinically dead and you're put on this ECMO machine that pumps the blood through your body. And prior to that, so before I had the open heart surgery from birth to uh, when I had the surgery, I couldn't laugh or cry as a baby because if I did, your heart's supposed to pump blood throughout your body. Well, what would happen in me is this valve would close and the blood would just pump within my heart from chamber to chamber, and I wouldn't get oxygen and I could die. So I wasn't allowed to laugh or cry or show any emotion as a baby
Um,
because I would die. So I'm sure that was a blast for my parents. And so I had open heart surgery at 7 months old. Very blessed that since that surgery, I have not had any other heart surgeries. Uh, just recently got another clean bill of health. Like, very, very thankful that everything is working so beautifully in there. And very thankful for the doctor who repaired my heart. And that's, why I said Western medicine actually has a time and absolutely has a time and place because no oils or crystals or whatever, or homeopathy or frequency healing was going to fix how fucked up my heart was. A surgeon was going to do that.
Yeah.
So, time and place for everything.
Right.
And the other thing is, I was born without a left thumb, and my left arm is also called a radio clubbed hand. So, for the audio listeners, the where my thumb would be, the inside of my hand, was wrapped all the way in, touching the inside of my forearm. And I don't have a radius. So you have two bones in your forearm. You have your radius, which is on the side of your thumb, and your ulna that's on the outside. As a baby, because your bones are more malleable, they took splints and they moved it so it was like a capital L shape. And then when I was 10, almost 11, I we lived in Michigan, and we went to Baltimore, Maryland, to the Rubin Institute for Advanced Orthopedics. And a doctor there named Dr. John Herzenberg uh, was doing this surgery that at the time, that was the only place in the United States who did it. And it was a Russian method called the Zrilorov device. And I probably butchered that, but that's roughly what it is. And I'm sure you guys have seen the people where it's typically on the legs, where they have like these halos or these metal circles that are around the legs, and you see these pins going into the leg. So I had that. And if you get a little squeamish, fast forward about 45 seconds. So these pins were drilled into my arm. My arm was surgically broken. And we would take a wrench. The first one was a wrench, and we would turn it a certain amount, these bolts, a certain amount of times a day. And it separated the broken bone, also stretching the skin, the nerves, the tendons, the blood vessels, all of these at the same time. And it was really freaking painful. So that first round took my hand from that capital L shape to more straight. The second set that I had done was to lengthen my forearm, because currently it's still, I don't know, about 8 inches shorter, but it was supposed to give me 3 inches. It only gave me two. One, because I ended up having compartment syndrome when I first woke up. So I lost all feeling in my hand. I remember vaguely coming out of surgery, the doctor, putting a pen on my hand and just going, "Can you feel this?" And I was looking the other way at my mom, and I just said, "Feel what?" And my mom going ghost white, and I'm back in surgery. And I came out, it's hard to see now, but I have a scar that goes from here all the way down to here. And so that wasn't a great start to the second round. And so as we're separating this bone, ideally the body's trying to get it to grow back together. At some point, my body decided we're not going to do that. And so I had about an inch gap in between my broken bones. And they said, well, we're going to have to squish it back together. We're going to have to use a bone stimulator, which is like ultrasound waves, to try and promote bone growth. And if that doesn't work, we're going to have to do a bone graft from your leg. Thankfully, no bone graft. However, smushing it back together hurt 20 times worse than pulling it apart. Don't know why, but it was absolutely awful. So that was from the ages like 10 to 14, with 7 surgeries on my arm. And then the other big thing was I just finished my first year of grad school. I was getting my master's in infectious diseases and microbiology. Thought I was going to save the world. Wanted to be one of those crazy people that went to like Africa to fight Ebola and wore the spacesuits. That was my dream. Just like a week after the semester had ended, the second semester, May 6, 2014, walking across the street to catch the bus to go to school. And it was this weird 5-way intersection in Pittsburgh. And so a lady turning left, because when I had the right of way to cross the street, these cars also had the same light to go left, a green arrow. So a lady cuts in front of me, and I remember looking over my right shoulder to be like, "You're a bitch. Like, why did you cut me off?" Someone followed her, so I somehow managed to get in between these two cars. That second car is the one who hit me, broke my pelvis in 4 or 5 places, my shoulder, my clavicle, traumatic brain injury, and I laid in bed for 10 weeks uh, because I couldn't walk. My pelvis basically went in, broke, and popped back out like a pop can. And so I didn't need surgery at the time for that, but I couldn't walk. They're like, if you put any weight on your left leg, you will need plates and screws in your pelvis. So I went from being completely independent to relying on my parents. And at one point, my dad was carrying me. I was 23 at the time, I think, carrying me up and down these 2 flights of stairs in this colonial for me to go to the bathroom and take a shower because my parents only had that on the 2nd floor. It sucked. Like it sucked. And I had to relearn how to walk because of the TBI or the traumatic brain injury. I couldn't focus on a TV show, couldn't read a book, couldn't focus on anything. And it just literally scrambled my brain.
Wow.
Had to do a lot of, like when you go to the grocery store and you can look at the stuff on the right and your stuff on your left. So you're turning your head back and forth.
Yeah.
If I did that, I would vomit. You're supposed to be able to be standing in the middle of a room, close your eyes and not fall over. Yeah, I couldn't do that either. So I had to do this thing called vestibular therapy, which is basically pushing yourself just to the point that you want to puke and then not. And like that was almost worse than physical therapy.
Wow.
So, but yeah, I did that. And that happened in May. And the school told me, you have to go back full time by January of 15. So 7 months later, or we're going to pull your registration and you're going to have to reapply. So I said, fuck you. I'm not going to reapply. So I went back full time and I graduated because I'm stubborn.
Being stubborn is a good thing sometimes. We get things accomplished, to get things done.
Absolutely. I've had to walk the line of stubborn, not stupid, but you
Right.
know,
Right. Yeah.
but yeah, and it's weird because people are like, oh, you've had these, you've died, you've had this near that experience. Did you ever see the light? Did you ever? Nope. Never saw the light, never, nothing of that. But it definitely, I would say the car accident definitely forced me to face a lot of things. And I was really pissed off. I was angry. I was depressed um, for a long time, like 4 or 5 years. It was a really long time
Wow.
just trying to work through that.
It was a wake up experience all in itself.
It was.
Yeah.
It was.
Now I'm curious about your what are the letters? The traumatic brain injury, I think you called it.
TBI. Yep.
Um, now was what your way of thinking, did it change after that? Because me and you, when we had last time we got together, we were on an episode of on your podcast.
Hmm.
Um, and we were talking about being autistic.
Yep.
Audience, she's also autistic. Uh, so yeah, so I guess my question is, would you say you were autistic before that? Or if you look at it right now, I don't know if you've really observed it since then, like perhaps the autism came after. What would you say
I would say it was always there.
is all of
And
that?
there were certain traits that became more prevalent. So in some cases, my OCD kicked up more afterwards as a way to like control things because I when I was hit by the car and I'm laying in a hospital bed in my parents' dining room for 10 weeks, I didn't have control over anything.
Right.
So my OCD would like kick in on stupid things. Like when I was using a microwave, like the last 2 numbers had to be a multiple of 11. Why? I don't know, but they did. And if they didn't, I would get angry, like irrationally angry. Um, like stupid things, and like certain things had to have certain orders, and then other things looked like a mess to others, but to me made total sense. And I'm like, if you touched my piles, I didn't, and you cleaned up for me, I would get really mad. So I'm like, but I knew where everything was. So certain things became more intense after, but it was always there.
Yeah, it totally makes sense. And I was gonna say that it's obviously because of the lack of control that the OCD turns up.
Yeah.
I totally relate. Um, yeah, I totally feel that. So yeah, the reason I asked that because I do have like I've shitload load of theories about autism and the many other things, but yeah. So one of my theories is like it's more it's yeah theory is the word. That like sure it's a genetic marker like I feel
Mhm.
like autism is like a genetic marker thing, right? But when it comes to certain things, like I've had the theory like what if brain damage, for example, because like you
Yeah.
see some people they become obviously like autistic after a brain injury, but
Yeah.
there's something before that. There's like
So
some kind of genetic marker before that usually.
so the thing that I noticed that was like night and day is prior to the accident, I had no symptoms of like ADD or ADHD.
Oh wow.
I like I was fine. I could focus. Uh I like to multitask, but like I could focus on things. I could read a book. I could sit there and read an entire book in a day. So I didn't have those pieces.
Right.
Afterwards, it was so bad that I would watch 10 minutes of a show and get distracted.
Yeah.
And now I have to be doing multiple things at once or I can't focus. And from probably September of 2014 to beginning of 2019, uh, they had me on Ritalin, and it was great. I got so much shit done. I could focus. It was awesome. And I was on a super low dose. It was only 5 milligrams. Coming off of that, oh my God, it was awful.
Yeah.
The withdrawal symptoms, and they're like, oh, it's only 5 milligrams. You should be fine. Natasha, I went up to like 15 cups of coffee at one point
Mm.
because then I couldn't stay awake, but then I couldn't sleep and I couldn't focus and I felt like I was going crazy.
Wow.
But prior to that, I didn't feel the need for Ritalin. I had none of those symptoms. Afterwards, I didn't know how to live without it. And detoxing and withdrawing from that,
Right.
it took like 3 weeks. It was awful. It was awful.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. So your autism, like from the beginning, it's more and I'm gathering this from the conversation that we had already, was more on the great memory, just like really well functioning, just like really intelligent. Uh
Yeah. And I didn't, social cues I struggled with a little bit. Like I never really understood sarcasm or like why people would be mean or things like that. But it was never obvious. I was just the old soul or sensitive for my age or things like that. It wasn't super, super obvious. And it
yeah,
was just, well, she's been through so much and she's 10 years old. Of course she's like this. And that's just what it was attributed to.
right. Yeah. And that podcast episode that you had me on,
Mhm.
uh, we talked about well, how did I word this? Something along the lines of like you are who you are when it comes to autism. You are who you are. It's like a way of being. It's just how you're wired genetically. Like there's a genetic marker. This is how you're wired, etc. When it becomes obvious or like a diagnosable issue, etc., is when it, in my opinion, is when outside factors, whether it's in the environment or some kind of damage to your system. That's when things show up and you become like what's like sorry, Bobby, I totally hit my kitty. When it becomes like more of a label or obvious
Right.
autistic, but like it's there, just certain things pop up once there's issues. Like for me,
Yes.
I'm curious for myself, all the things that I have trouble with, like for example memory. is that normal, or is that my environment in which I grew up, which was like there was no like physical touch, no like none of the good stuff.
Yeah.
I'm just like wondering, like,
I don't know. Like you're asking, was it always there and
yeah.
did the like that's how it was always meant to be, or did the environment enhance that? I think is what you're asking. Yeah.
Well, more so it's like a statement, like it's like what's going on? You know what I mean? Like what's going on? Like I think it's both. Like I think you come in a certain way, and then certain things just hit you, and then like for example develop attention deficit disorder. You
Yeah.
know, those are, I feel like, secondary things, or more like um yeah I think before we even started recording on your episode, we might have talked about this, how it's like a like it's kind of like a spectrum in a way, and then there's
Yes.
all these flavors, and why do we have all these other separate diagnoses? It's more like a, again, just like guys, don't come at me with pitchforks, but because like people like to have things separate, whatever, but to me it's just like there's some kind of genetic thing, and then there's just flavors that are thrown in, whether it's Tourette's, ADD, dyslexia, and the list goes on.
Yeah.
Like
I th- well, and I think people have this narrow banded view of the spectrum. Like they understand that not everyone is the same and that part they can grasp. But the best way I can describe it is it's not like there's just a ton of fruit and you're just picking out a different fruit. It's more of it's a whole grocery store and there's fruits and there's vegetables and there's meats and there's grains and there's boxed foods and there's sugar and there's the frozen aisle and it's all food,
yeah,
but it's all different types of food.
right, but it's food, right? And the thing that I had thrown in was the fact that they took out Asperger's.
Yeah.
It's just like, okay, we're taking out Asperger's and calling that autism. Well, it was obviously autism, but like if we're taking out that label, why don't we take out all the motherfucking labels and just call them like flavors? You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Just like spectrum, and then
Yeah.
the flavors. Here's a little, like,
Well, and I think that goes to the point of everyone it's human it's natural for humans to want to put things in boxes and label them and have these neat little categories.
yeah,
But for the most part, especially when it comes to humans, trying to put us in these little boxes doesn't really work.
yeah,
But people try. The school system tries, the medical system tries, the political parties try. Like everyone wants to put these in these neat little boxes and people rarely fit in there.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, okay, so let's get into one of the things I wanted to, I guess, bring up really quick.
Mhm.
So what you had called the Jabberwockies earlier. I'm just gonna go like this. We know what this
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
But I mean, I think it's fine to mention the word when in the context of your life, what you've done.
Yes.
So I'm gonna say, so you've worked on vaccines,
Yes.
uh, for Pharma, from 2013 to 2021, and
Yep.
yeah, tell me about that, and like, yeah, whatever pops up,
So, when I
maybe.
was in grad school, I was working on a vaccine for a potential bioweapon. So, bioweapons are things that are the scary things that they warn you about, things like anthrax, things like that. And that's what I did. And like I said earlier, I wanted to be that person that put on this crazy suit that like you see in Contagion or something and went into middle of outbreaks.
Yeah,
Uh, so I did that from basically 2013 to mid 2016. Started officially working for Pharma in 2017 and wasn't doing vaccine research there, but eventually did go into their infectious disease department and then ended up working for another pharma industry or another pharmaceutical company uh, for 7 months before I completely left the industry. And I left the industry in April, actually April 7th, 2021. And the company that I was working for was a startup that was attempting to make the COVID test in-home COVID test kits. And I was the lab manager. And so I was doing a lot of purchase orders. I was on a lot of the emails. I was interfacing with a lot of the departments. And originally, when I started, I was helping like 3 people in the lab in one department. And it grew to like 5 departments and like 75 people. And things were happening that I was not okay with. There was labs in garages and labs in basements, and it wasn't like your take home Amazon kit where like it was a little petri dish and you're like, "Oh, is bacteria going to grow?" Like it was chemicals, it was things that you needed proper uh special hoods for to like vent out so you didn't get sick, your family didn't get sick. There was a lady who was working with chemicals that were known to cause cancer and all these other things in her basement with her 2 kids, like small children. And I'm like, why? Um, they had shipped chemicals in a regular FedEx box without proper labels or forms across state lines, unlabeled, to a lab who mixed the ratios inappropriately, causing it to spill over. And when they're like, that lab had reached out to the company and was like, "Hey, like this happened. How do we clean it up?" Because you can't just like get some paper towel and, like a spilled water glass.
Right.
Uh, they're like, "Oh, the first response from our company was the same woman who had the hood in the basement and playing with or no hood in the basement, playing with chemicals. Her response was, 'Ha ha ha, looks like you're having fun playing with chemicals.' Someone could have gotten hurt. Like, so there were so many things that happened that my stress level was through the roof. I was basically working 6 a.m. to 10 p.m., 6 days a week, uh, no help. And it was very misogynistic of older white males were head of all departments. And when I would make a suggestion, I was this little teeny girl who didn't know jack shit. And why should we listen to her? And so I finally said, F it. I can't do this. My mental health is worth more than this paycheck. And I walked.
Yeah.
And shortly after that, they did the mandates. So I never had to deal with saying no to that. Um, but I left before that happened. And it was just, eh, they were so blind. I remember trying to bring up the potential uh, adverse reactions, how like no one had studied these. And because we were quote unquote first responders, there were people who were getting this, and we were eligible. So they were getting it in like February, March of 2021. And people would be like, "Oh yeah, I'm going to get it." And they would be off then for like 4 or 5 days because they'd be so sick.
Yeah.
And then it was just totally normal. And I'm like, that's not normal. There was one woman, she was off for like a week after she got it. And she's like, "Oh, I'm gonna go get my second one." And I was like, "Why? Why?" And she did, and then she was off for another few days, and she's like, "Oh, it wasn't as bad as the first time."
Yeah.
Alright, like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And I left because, like I said, I couldn't keep hurting people. Even the COVID tests we were doing, there was chemicals on the swabs and stuff, um,
Other things.
and other things, and I was just like, it was like lying to people, and I'm like, "I can't morally, I cannot be a part of this."
Right.
Uh Told my now husband, I'd called him from work and I basically had a mental breakdown. And I was like, I'm quitting. He's like, all right. He's like, I don't know what this is going to look like, financially. Um, but he's like, okay. And I haven't been back. you know,
Yeah.
if I went full force into seeing people in Connecticut in person to do energy healings. Like I said, I make my own essential oil rollers, the custom blends for people, and I put crystals in them. Uh, and that's what I want to do. Like, I want to empower people to help themselves because there's so much you can do with nature, and nature is medicine.
Yeah.
And I want to teach people to do it because I don't want it to be, "Okay, here's your natural prescription, here," like, no. Like, I'll help you, I'll guide you, but my goal is that you don't have to come back to me unless there's, like, something new flares up and you don't know how to deal with it or something. I don't want to create a consistent customer. I am not Pharma.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
I'm
want it.
passionate about that myself. I don't want you.
Yes.
I'd rather be broke.
Yeah,
I don't want you to come back to me.
yeah, like, let's get you right. And I don't want to create a perpetual customer. You know,
Exactly.
you want to do referrals, you want to do things like that? Absolutely.
I
You
just
know?
find it's so wrong. It's so wrong. Like a few months ago, I was talking to somebody because like with what I do, once we hit a certain point, after a few sessions, they don't need me anymore. So it's like
Yeah.
so it could be hard. I'm not marketing out there like like
Yeah.
big level or anything like that. So yeah, I was telling somebody and they were like, well, why don't you like don't make it as potent? I'm like, that's just so wrong.
Yeah, that's wrong.
Wrong. Like even if I can't pay my bills, I can't do that. I can't like I just can't.
No.
That's not why they came to me for. What
No.
everybody else does is just like, oh yeah, let me, have them dependent on me, etc. I'm not there for that. I'm not. I feel
No.
that.
That would be like if I'm like, "Okay, so first you need to come to me, so I'll clear all your negative attachments, and then you need to come to me for a Reiki, and then you need to come to me, because your knee hurts, and we'll work on that, and then you need to come to me." If I can do that in 1 or 2 shot,
Yeah.
why would I make you 1, take up more of your time? Time is a valuable resource.
Yeah.
2, spend more money on things that obviously you need, but if I can do them all at once, that's a ripoff. That's a scam.
It's a scam.
That's a scam. You don't do that.
You don't do that. Exactly. Absolutely. I'm not trying to for anybody that lives their life that way. I'm not trying to judge you or anything, but like
I'll judge you.
we're here we're here to help people, and it's just like I get it. Everything's so set up wrong. Like I get it. I get it. We need to like pay our bills, etc. Whatever. I get it. But at the same time, come on.
So here's my thing. I totally get paying bills because, my electric company is not going to go accept
Right.
some essential oils to keep my lights on.
Right.
So I understand that money is necessary and I'm certainly giving something of myself, doing healing techniques. That's very personal energy taxing, right? Uh so I'm not opposed to money. Money isn't this evil thing,
Oh,
but I think scamming people
it's
and
bad.
these $1,000 sessions and where you need $2,000 to find yourself or whatever it is. And I'm just like, know your worth, charge that. If someone really needs help, you can have a conversation with that person and then you two decide, what that looks like.
Yeah.
But don't go make it so absurd that you can't help people. If you really want to help people, you'll work with them.
Right. Right. And there is, the factor of you make something too cheap, then, it won't like but
You
there's balance between that.
right, you don't want to make it so cheap that you don't value yourself because if you don't value yourself and your time, other people won't either.
And some
But
people will actually think, oh, well, it's so cheap, it must not be worth,
exactly, exactly. So there is that line of and I still struggle with that of what to charge for certain things,
yeah.
but that's where I kind of let my intuition
Yeah.
guide myself and I'm always willing to work with people. Like if you come to me and you're like, I really need some help, but I can't afford
Right,
whatever. I'm
right.
like,
It costs
okay,
money, right.
like so let's talk about that. Like, do you offer anything? Do you have a farm? Do you have like, let's have a conversation.
Yeah.
um Obviously I can't get paid in fresh eggs for every person, right?
Right.
But
Right.
we're human beings. Let's connect as human beings and be understanding.
Right. Yeah, we could definitely always work out some kind of trade, some kind of whatever. And it's not like we're gonna give our services away for free to every single person because our time is important. But at this,
Right.
if we have some time and somebody comes to us and tells us what's up, can we trade
Yeah.
or this, that, or the other, like there's ways to work around everything, absolutely. But to completely just like drag things along is not okay. You're booby. You're messing my shit.
Demanding attention. Mama pet me. Mama pet me.
She's just like her nails are too long, so she's just stuck on everything. Like every couple of seconds, stuck. I'm just like
She's one of those cardboard cat scratchers or something.
She does. She does. It's just like she's here now, and she's just like, but me. I wish I wasn't allergic, man.
I know.
Oh man, yeah. So me and Ellie are both allergic to our cats.
Yeah, my left eye for the past like, I don't know, a week and a half. It looks okay now. But every morning when I wake up, it's like itchy and red and watery because she will come and that I lay on my left side and she comes and like curls up like in
Mm,
my chest area, like right below my chin, and then sleeps there
yeah.
and will headbutt me until I pull the blankets back so she can lay there. So there's no ignoring her. If anyone's ever had a cat headbutt you until they pay attention, like you'll know there's no ignoring that when you're trying to sleep. So
I will invite her out of my room.
I'll invite her out of my room. I like that.
I need
Does
to
she
put
sit
her
at the door
outside of
and
the room.
does she sit at your door and cry?
Huh?
Does she sit at your door and cry?
Um, no. I'm gonna say no.
So Katniss
I say
will.
no.
If we tried to close our bedroom door, even if we go to the bathroom and completely latch it so she can't get in,
Oh
she will
wow.
sit out and cry.
Oh wow. I guess I got kind of lucky there because while she is so absolutely needy, um yeah, she doesn't just like constantly, not constantly. Yeah, definitely not. See, got into the cat talk again.
It happens. She wanted some attention. She's like, you have to talk about me on the show. It's fine.
We're talking about you on the show. She's like, yeah, I don't care. All right. So let's see. I wanted to ask something else about the vax. What it was it that I don't remember anymore, but definitely wanted to ask something. But yeah, with everything that's going on right now, oh, I know what I want to ask. I feel like I don't know, like I feel like anybody out there now probably by this time to later, or what are we, in November 2022,
Yep.
almost everybody knows somebody that has had knows somebody that at least know, like there's some kind of connection where we know somebody who has like a
Yep.
family member or whatever the relation, or they or somebody that we know themselves that has had their heart explode. Do you know of anything like this? I feel like it's becoming a little too popular nowadays.
I don't. The only one that comes to mind is my husband had a guy at work, but I don't know if he got the Jabberwocky or not.
Yeah.
Um, who I guess he was on vacation, told his wife, "Hey, I don't feel well. I'm gonna go lay down." She went to check on him like an hour later, and he had passed. Uh, I do know two people that, and they were not in like tip top health.
Yeah.
Um, Ended up getting COVID and going to the hospital and then dying. But they were given remdesivir. Yes, I said that incorrectly on purpose. And they were put on ventilators. So, and we all know how that turned out. So, I don't personally know anyone. However, my circle is very small because the amount of bullshit that I will tolerate in my life is very low.
Yeah.
Uh, I actually only know and speak like on good terms with an aunt and uncle who got it, but they got it very, very early on when there was still some discussion on like where it was at. I take that back. I have two cousins who did it too, but none of them now will get boosters or anything because they understand. They're like, yeah, like we shouldn't have gotten it. Thankfully, my aunt and uncle didn't have any side effects. Uh,
Yeah.
my cousin's wife, I guess her thyroid started having issues afterwards. But other than that, I'm very thankful that there hasn't, I haven't experienced that. Um, also thankful that I had to recently go see my cardiologist and he never asked me about my status.
Wow.
It, yep, never brought it up, never nothing. So that was refreshing because I probably would have been like, why are you recommending this to a congenital heart patient who like that? So, but yeah, I'm thankful that I don't know anyone is what I can say. But I have heard lots of stories about died suddenly.
Yeah.
It's sad.
You know, and you know, like this whole period, you know, they were relying on those bleeding hearts individuals, you know, like to like basically spread the propaganda because they care about people not spreading things, etc. And while I get it, why would you want to spread something that's harmful? I get it, but like they counted on those bleeding heart people to not see past the illusion
Well, and so
agenda.
here's my thing is we're going to take it away from COVID for a second, but it'll all be relevant. RSV, respiratory syncytial virus. So basically a really bad cold with little babies and things like that. Uh, it can, if they have other underlying conditions, be dangerous.
Right.
But once you get it, you typically don't get it again. Okay, so it's not really a risk to the elderly and things like that. If you're really elderly, if you're immunocompromised, different story. I'm talking in generalities here.
Mm.
So this happens every flu-ish season, okay? So in the US from like October to like March, RSV kicks up. And right now in all the news headlines as of November 2022, RSV, cases are spiking. This is really dangerous for kids. All this other stuff. And there's actually natural ways to support your kid if they get it. Well, just as a little coinky dink, Pfizer is almost done with developing an RSV Jabberwocky. Wonder why we're trying to push RSV as such a bad thing right now. Because no one is really afraid of a disease until there's a cure or a Jabberwocky. Just like COVID.
Yeah.
Everyone kept saying it's a really bad cold. And that's where everyone was for a really long time. And then, yes, in the very beginning, supposedly people were dying in the streets in China. But a lot of people were saying it's a cold. Maybe a really bad cold, but it's a cold. But once there's this magical cure or preventative or whatever, now they have an agenda to push because they have to sell those things.
Yeah. And whatever else is behind the scenes that we don't even know about.
Yeah. Yeah.
All those things, all those crazy, crazy things. Billionaires getting richer, etc., etc. And
Oh, yeah.
yeah. Yeah. Whew. Yeah.
It's, and I guess I just saw a headline Pfizer's going to mark up the C Jabberwocky like 10,000% or something like that. Because now it's been uh, on the suggested schedule. And so in 2023, they're going to spike the price. Well, if it was so great and everyone's like, oh, well, it was free. No, no, no. It was never free. Either the taxpayers paid for it or your insurance company paid for it. And they passed along that cost to you by raising your insurance premiums. Nothing is ever free in life.
That is true.
Energy wise, physical wise, spiritual wise, nothing is ever free.
Yeah. If you're getting something for free, it's not really free. There's some kind of payment happening.
There's some kind of payment, and you should probably figure out what that payment is because
It's never free.
it's
Never,
never free.
never, never. Some part of you is being taken.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whether it's money,
Or your soul, or your
thank you. I'm
DNA,
trying not to get in there, but technically, yeah, exactly. Like for
or
example,
your sovereignty, or whatever.
exactly, absolutely. When people do what's called dark magic, black magic, whatever they call it.
Yep.
They think, like, oh, like I'm communicating with these spirits and these spirits are doing things for free. No, there's a part of you that's literally taken. A part of your soul, you're literally, how they say selling your soul to, you're literally take every single time you participate in something like where somebody does something for you, a part of your soul is a payment, whether you're aware of it or not, and that it just, yeah, nothing's free, period. All right, my love, so I want to, I guess, ask you before we go, is there anything else that you would like to tell the people, any kind of information wise, or advice wise, or perhaps even, well, let's go with that. Is there anything advice wise that you can share with the humans of Earth?
Trust your intuition
Yes.
and look into natural options.
Yeah.
Uh, Whatever that means to you, whether that's checking out a book from the library, whether that's, following an account on Instagram that you like, whether it's getting an encyclopedia of herbal medicine. There's so many options. And just try and figure out if let's say you get a cold every winter or whatever. Look up like two things that you could get it's a natural way to aid your body,
Yeah.
and just empower yourself because once you have that knowledge, no one can take that knowledge from you.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, so when it comes to the cold thing, like I was telling you, those two acupoints,
Yeah.
the other thing that like I do a bunch of stuff, but like one of the other my other secrets to not getting a cold for somebody that was always constantly sick, I make elderberry, like people could do like syrups, and
Yep.
I do with tea a bunch of elderberry. What it does is it eliminates the mucus, which is where like the bacteria and all that stuff grow. So if you remove the base where things can grow, and you do the acupoints for getting rid of that whatever kind of pathogen, right there, just the two empowering things are awesome.
Yeah.
All right, so I am going to put all of your information down below in the description, but is there anything that you would like to tell people, maybe like about your show, or like how people could find you, whatever you
Yes.
tell people?
Yes. So my podcast is the Speed Bumps podcast,
Check
and I just, pardon me.
check it out, guys. It out.
So in the first episode, I tell my story and I go into more detail. And then after that, I interview people about their speed bumps in life. It doesn't necessarily have to be the most traumatic thing. However, there are a couple that are. And I just chat with people and have conversations in the hopes that we can all learn from each other and find this community. On Instagram, I am one thumb el, one thumb l. My podcast Instagram is speed.bumps.podcast. If you are interested, you live in the Connecticut area and you want to have a session with me, you can DM me on Instagram and we can set up something. I can do things remote as well. So you don't have to be in the state of Connecticut or the area to do those things. So things like Reiki, some of the Solex things, a holistic coaching session, I can do all of those things remotely. And yeah, just chat with me because I like talking with people.
Wonderful, wonderful. And I like to ask people their idea or their version of what the 5D is. What is your opinion?
I don't I don't know if I've ever thought about it, to be honest with you.
What's the first
If
what comes to mind or to heart?
it's just it's not something that we can see or describe necessarily. It's just this place where everything is all knowing and we're all, I guess, all God. And there's you can solve problems, you can there's just this peace, and you can have these conversations, and all the knowledge from all of time, from all the different places is just there. And
Yeah.
it's not a physical meat suit like we have now, it's not humans, it's not aliens, it's not anything like that necessarily. It's just this presence, this thing that you can't see, you can't explain.
Yeah.
It's just there, like the wind.
Yeah. Yeah. So, the way my personal opinion, if you like to hear,
Yeah.
so I feel like, so I feel like all it is a different perception. So
Okay.
it's not like it's in any way a different place whatsoever. It's a different perception, and that perception comes from the heart space. So if you like, a lot of us, like I used to live in my head,
Yep.
like I was a thinker. Now I'm a feeler. So now the energy is more so within the heart space.
Yep.
So if you take that energy, move it here and live from the heart space, I feel like if you truly live through the heart space, that's it. Because like if we live through the heart space, our everything that we do is affected
Yeah.
from the heart.
Yeah.
And more of us that live this way is contagious to more and more people, and we create from this space. More of us and more of us and more of us keep doing it, and that's how, in my opinion, we grow. uh you know New Earth, people are like, oh, when is New Earth is gonna get, when is it gonna get here? And I'm like, you don't understand. You're not gonna be here hanging out and then it's just gonna come to you. It's something we all create.
Yeah. And you can't, I don't want to say you have to work for it, because it's not work like people
Yeah.
think, like a garden. It's more of an inner garden, if that makes sense. Like
Yeah, having it. Yeah.
you have to tend to yourself, and you have to tend to your inner garden.
That's it. That's it. Those wounds, get rid of those wounds to be able to be in the heart space.
Yes.
That's what knocks us out, the wounds.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, my love. I want to definitely do that. Because me and her have talked about doing an autism talk. I just did
Yes.
my last autism talk with two other ladies that are neurodivergent. That went really good. I'm gonna release it soon, sometime soon, and I want to get with you soon. And
Yes.
I am looking really forward to it. And you guys check it out one of these days when that gets released. Our talk on my YouTube channel. And yeah, check out her podcast. Great,
Yes.
great material, and she's great. So
Thank you. Yeah, and Natasha was episode 29, if y'all want to check that out.
yeah, check it out, guys. All right, you guys, thank you so much for joining us. I will see you the next time I have another episode. And in the meantime, just check out my regular podcast. There's plenty of info on there if you want to check it out. Season 3 has a couple of episodes already out. All right, sending so much love to everybody. Bye.
Bye.